Hello, church. I am Dr. Matt Connor. I practice emergency medicine and functional medicine here in Austin. I imagine most of you haven't heard of it yet, so I wanted to inform you that there is a coronavirus going around. And, this can be looked at as fearfully or as a great opportunity for us and how we respond. Fear often comes from feeling out of control, that the future is unknown, and that's expected from the general populace, but we know who is in control of the future. And I wanted to help allay some fears by discussing how to avoid being sick and also how to thrive in the apocalypse, as well as give you myself as a resource for someone you can ask whether to seek medical care or what you might need to do. Um, Understand recommendations are constantly in flux. There are websites out there that are trying to help, and some are fantastic resources, but there's also a lot of bogus information that's going to get distributed. We are interested in truth, not lies. Most of our fear comes from not knowing or clinging to what is true and being swept away by the wind and waves that just lead us astray. And also, this is a somewhat unique situation, but how you operate now and every day really should be similar. Jesus and his disciples act on faith. This is a fantastic opportunity to come together as followers of the Lord, to model peace and calm in the midst of a world in chaos, to show light in the midst of darkness, and hope in the wake of fear and seeming uncertainty, as we know we have a certain future. We have a Lord who not only stays calm, but calms the storm. We know who holds today and the future in the palm of his hand, who says he will be with us always, so we never walk alone. And those are truths we can cling to. A God who cares for us and loves us and says, I've got you. In times like these, we're reminded of our own mortality, that the world and the conditions in it are somewhat outside of our control. We can't control some things, mostly our response to what happens. And I can start by remembering who is in control ultimately and help other people find and know him as well during this time. This isn't a government issue. This is going to be stopped at the community level. We have an opportunity to act as a family and help one another. And this situation isn't unique. This is how we should act all the time, looking out for our own health, but also the health of those around us, loving our neighbor as ourselves. Remember, everything you touch or breathe or cough on matters. You can take general precautions in being mindful of everywhere you go, everything you touch, where you breathe and cough. The virus is mainly going to be spread from another person's respiratory tiny droplets and contaminated surfaces. Uh, the main symptoms you already know are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. So, what do you do if you have some symptoms? If you're breathing well and feel somewhat like a bad cold, then stay home. There's no reason that you have to get tested. There's no treatment unless you are dehydrated and need IV fluids, or you need something like oxygen or hospitalization. Basically, either you're good enough to stay home or you need to be hospitalized. And that's not based on whether you test positive or not. Um, the U.S. Task Force for Coronavirus is putting out a website regarding who can get testing. They're starting to have these drive-through centers, and it's likely going to be anybody who has symptoms of the fever and cough or who has some additional medical problems. But still, there's no treatment. I want to emphasize that as far as the testing is not going to help you get better. In general, even if you test negative, it doesn't mean you aren't contagious with something else. So you still should stay away from others and do everything you can to keep from transmitting it to other people. And that's mainly paying attention to where you're coughing and breathing and what you're doing with your hands. This is how disease spreads. You cough, you get droplets in the air on surfaces. You have it on your hand from rubbing or blowing your nose, touching a contaminated surface, and then you touch a surface that somebody else may touch, and then you eat off of it, and then you get the virus. Um, Now is a common time for those of us who already have a stress level that's up to here to think they have symptoms, meaning I feel a little something in my chest. Oh man, my throat hurts a little bit. I may have coronavirus. Well, you may, but you probably don't need to go to the ER or hospital for that. So who should get tested? Only those who have symptoms should even consider being tested. Everybody wants to know, and it's very helpful for us to know what's going on with the disease burden. But just remember, even if you test negative, it doesn't mean you aren't contagious with another virus or that you won't pick up coronavirus later. You still need to be cautious and considerate of others and yourself. So one thing I wanted to add is, why do some people succumb to illnesses like the flu or corona easier than others? And it's not just that they're old. You can be old and respond great. You can be young and appear healthy on the outside and still die of the flu because something's going on deep down that you didn't know about. It's people who have a decreased capacity to heal when faced with some extra insult. Their disease cup is already partly filled, so when they get something like a coronavirus, their body can't cope. It runs over and they get extremely sick or perish. And others who have less problems, less inflammation in their cup, under the hood is good and their bodies are good, they can deal with it fantastic. And the good news is there are simple things within your control that you can do to improve your health and decrease your chances of getting sick now and in the future. Many of you are going to tend to ignore this. I totally get it. So I'm only going to give you a snippet here, and if you want to go further and optimize your health, then you can contact me. So what can you do? Number one, you can get plenty of sleep, ideally 7 to 8 hours a night. You can try to sweat every day to decrease toxins from your body, as well as increase your white blood cells that help you fight disease. You can stay hydrated. You can try to decrease your burden of stress or how you're dealing with stress. Eating a rainbow of colorful vegetables. Not only are some of those antiviral, but they have needed vitamins. And you please decrease your intake of grains and sugar. Staying connected to God. Nourish your spirit before you watch the news so you know how to respond properly. This does make a difference in your health. Science even agrees with this. Stay connected to friends and family, even if you're doing it remotely. And there are healthy vitamins and supplements you can take to boost your immunity, such as vitamin C is one, elderberry is another. You can see my website post or contact me for more about that. For general information, look at the CDC website. It's fantastic for answering almost all your basic questions. And if I can help you with further needs to improve your health or immunity, feel free to let me know. That is what I try to help people achieve. And I'll leave you with the words of Jesus. Do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble.